At exactly 1:03 a.m., my phone lit up on the nightstand, casting a pale blue glow across the dark bedroom. And for a brief second, I thought it was just another work notification or one of those useless promotional messages that arrive at the worst possible hour. I almost ignored it, but then I saw her name, Marina, my wife. The message was short, painfully simple. Don't wait for me tonight. I stared at those 5 words far longer than necessary, rereading them again and again as if they might rearrange themselves into something that made more sense. Marina had never been careless with her words. Even when she was tired, even when she was irritated, she still softened her messages with something warm, a heart emoji, a gentle "I love you," or at least an explanation. This time there was nothing. No context, no apology, no reassurance, just an instruction. Don't wait. We have been married for 6 years, together for 9, and in all that time I had learned to read the small shifts in her tone, the way sailors read the wind before a storm. Something in that message felt distant, almost rehearsed, like it had been typed with deliberate restraint. I replied almost immediately, trying to keep my voice steady even through text. Is everything okay? Where are you? The message delivered instantly. No response. I lay there listening to the faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional car passing outside, each sound amplified by the silence in the room. I told myself not to overreact. She was on a business trip. She had flown out that morning for what was supposed to be a 2-night conference in another city. Late meetings happened. Networking dinners stretched past midnight. I knew all that, but something still felt wrong. At 1:12 a.m., I called her. It rang once and went straight to voicemail. That's when the unease in my chest shifted into something heavier, something sharper that settled under my ribs and refused to move. Marina never turned her phone off during trips. She used to laugh at my worrying, teasing me that I acted like she was traveling through a war zone instead of staying at a 4-star hotel downtown. I tried calling again. Voicemail. I got out of bed and walked into the living room, the wooden floor cool under my bare feet. The apartment felt different somehow, as if the absence of her presence had suddenly become noticeable in ways it hadn't earlier that evening. Her coffee mug was still on the kitchen counter from the morning, faint lipstick mark on the rim. Her perfume lingered faintly in the hallway. Everything looked normal, too normal. At 1:19 a.m., my phone vibrated in my hand. She was calling. I answered immediately. Marina, what's going on? Her voice came through low and controlled, the way she sounded when she was trying very hard not to reveal too much emotion. Daniel, I told you not to wait. There was no affection in her tone, no irritation either, just distance. I'm not waiting, I replied, though that was obviously a lie. I'm just trying to understand. Where are you? A pause followed, long enough that I checked the screen to make sure the call hadn't dropped. I'm safe, she finally said. That word echoed in my head long after she spoke it. Safe. It implied danger. It implied risk. It implied something had happened, or was about to happen. Safe from what? I asked quietly. That's not important right now. The tightness in my chest spread outward, becoming a slow, creeping cold. Who are you with? I pressed. Another silence. I could almost hear her breathing on the other end. Daniel, she said carefully, I need you to trust me. Trust. It's a strange word. It sounds solid, dependable. But in moments like that, it feels fragile, almost slippery. Trust you with what? I asked. I'll explain tomorrow. Explain what? The line went dead. She had hung up. For several seconds, I simply stood there staring at my phone, trying to process what had just happened. My mind began constructing possibilities faster than I could dismiss them. An emergency at work, a colleague in trouble, a surprise, a mistake, a lie. At 1:27 a.m., I did something I had never done in our entire relationship. I opened our shared location app. Her location had been disabled. My pulse quickened. Marina hated when I checked her location too often, but she never turned it off. She once said it made her feel safe knowing we could always find each other if something went wrong. Now it was gone. I walked down the hallway toward her home office, trying to steady my breathing. That's when I noticed something that made my stomach twist. Her work laptop was still on the desk. She never traveled without it. Not once. She had triple-checked her bag that morning, making sure her charger, presentation files, and notes were packed. I had watched her do it while sipping my coffee, teasing her about over-preparing as always. So why was the laptop here? A slow, deliberate dread began settling over me. In the hallway closet, there was an old phone she occasionally used for work when she needed a separate number for clients. She rarely touched it anymore, but she kept it charged just in case. I don't know what made me grab it. Maybe instinct, maybe fear, maybe something darker. A quiet suspicion that had been growing in places I didn't want to acknowledge. My hands felt cold as I unlocked it. I knew the passcode. We had never hidden passwords from each other. The screen lit up. There was a notification, unknown number. Room is booked. He doesn't suspect anything. Timestamp, 12:46 a.m. For a moment, I thought I was misreading it, that maybe my brain, desperate for clarity, was twisting ordinary words into something sinister. But there it was. Clear, simple, deliberate. He doesn't suspect anything. My mouth went dry. Another message below it. Are you sure you're ready? Her reply, yes. What about him? I'll handle it. I felt the world tilt slightly, as though the floor beneath me had shifted just enough to make balance uncertain. Was this about me or someone else? Was she protecting me from something or orchestrating something behind my back? At 1:39 a.m., another message appeared. A photo this time. A hotel hallway. Beige carpet. Identical doors. Dim lighting. Room number visible. 507. Underneath it, one word. Waiting. My heart began pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. This wasn't imagination. This wasn't paranoia. This was real. And whatever was happening in room 507 at 1:39 a.m. My wife was in the middle of it. I grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter, barely aware of my own movements. I didn't stop to consider consequences or explanations or the possibility that I might regret what I was about to do. All I knew was that staying in that apartment, pretending I hadn't seen those messages, was impossible. As I stepped out into the night air, the cold hit my face sharply, and for the first time since reading her text, I allowed myself to think the one possibility I had been avoiding. What if this wasn't about danger? What if it was betrayal? And what terrified me most wasn't just the idea of losing her. It was the realization that maybe I had already lost her long before 1 a.m. The drive to the hotel felt unreal, like I was moving through a city I didn't recognize even though I had lived there for most of my adult life. The streets were nearly empty, washed in pale orange light from the street lamps, and every red light felt like a deliberate attempt by the universe to slow me down and force me to think. But thinking was exactly what I was trying to avoid. My mind kept replaying the messages over and over again, each word digging deeper than the last. Room is booked. He doesn't suspect anything. I'll handle it. Waitin'. There are moments in life when your entire understanding of your relationship shifts in an instant, when the past begins to rearrange itself under a new light. As I drove, memories surfaced without invitation. The recent late meetings, the way Marina had been quieter during dinner conversations, how she had started placing her phone face down on the table. At the time, I had dismissed those details as stress. She had taken on a new position 3 months earlier, one that demanded longer hours and more responsibility. I had told myself she was simply overwhelmed. Now those small details felt different, intentional, calculated. The hotel from the photo wasn't far from our apartment, 15 minutes at most. It wasn't the downtown conference hotel she had mentioned that morning. This one was smaller, more discreet, the kind of place you choose when you don't want to be noticed. That realization made my grip tighten on the steering wheel. By the time I pulled into the parking lot, my heart was pounding hard enough to make my hands tremble. I turned off the engine but didn't move immediately. The building stood quiet and neutral in the night, its windows dark except for a few scattered lights on upper floors. Room 507, fifth floor. I stepped out of the car and walked toward the entrance, each footstep heavy and deliberate. The automatic doors slid open with a soft mechanical sigh, and warm air rushed over me, carrying the faint scent of cleaning products and artificial lavender. The lobby was nearly empty. A single receptionist sat behind the desk, half focused on a computer screen. A television mounted on the wall played muted news footage to no one in particular. I forced myself to stay calm. If I rushed upstairs blindly, I risked looking like a jealous husband chasing ghosts. I needed information first. I approached the desk, trying to steady my voice. "Good evening. I'm looking for my wife. She texted me that she was here, but her phone died. I just want to make sure she's okay." The receptionist looked up politely. "Name? Marina Kovalenko." She typed something into the computer, scanning the screen. "She's not registered here, sir." My stomach dropped. "Could she be under a different name?" I asked carefully. The receptionist shook her head. "We can't share guest information unless you're listed on the reservation." Of course, I stepped away from the desk, my thoughts racing. Maybe the room was booked under the other person's name. Maybe Marina wasn't officially checked in. Maybe my phone vibrated in my pocket. Her name flashed across the screen again. I answered immediately but didn't speak first. "Where are you?" she asked. Her tone had changed. It was sharper now, alert. "I could ask you the same thing," I replied. Silence, then quieter. "Daniel, did you go through my phone?" That was all the confirmation I needed. "You lied to me," I said, my voice low but steady. "You're not at a conference." "I never said I was at the conference yet." "You said you were leaving for 2 nights for work." "I am." "Then why is your laptop still at home?" I asked. The silence on the other end felt heavier than before. "I didn't think you'd notice," she finally said. That sentence cut deeper than I expected. "You didn't think I'd notice," I repeated. "I didn't think you'd check." There it was, the assumption, the plan. "You disabled your location," I said. "You booked a hotel room under someone else's name. You're texting someone about me not suspecting anything? What exactly am I supposed to trust here, Marina?" Her breathing grew uneven. "It's not what you think." That cliché, the one every guilty person seems to use. "Then tell me what it is," I demanded. "I can't explain this over the phone." "Are you in room 507?" I asked directly. a sharp inhale on the other end. How do you know that number? Because someone sent you a picture. Because someone is waiting for you. Because I saw everything. I'm downstairs, I said. The words hung between us. You followed me? She whispered. No, I replied. I came to find out if my wife is cheating on me. There was a long pause, long enough that I thought she might hang up again. Instead, she said something I didn't expect. Stay where you are. What? Don't go upstairs, please. That single word, please, carried something different this time. Not manipulation, not calculation, fear. And suddenly the narrative in my head shifted again. What's going on? I asked more quietly. I need 5 minutes, she said. Just 5. Then I'll come down. And the person in 507, I pressed. Another pause. There's no one in 507. But the message, Daniel, she interrupted, her voice breaking slightly. You don't understand. Then make me understand. I'm trying to protect you. Those words stopped me cold. Protect me. From what? The elevator doors at the far end of the lobby opened with a soft chime. I turned instinctively. Marina stepped out. She wasn't dressed for a romantic meeting. She was wearing jeans, a dark sweater, her hair pulled back loosely. She looked pale, tired, not guilty in the way I had imagined, not flustered or defensive. She looked scared. When her eyes found mine, something passed across her face that I couldn't immediately identify. Relief and something else. Regret. She walked toward me slowly, as if approaching a wild animal that might bolt at any second. I didn't want you here, she said softly. I didn't want to be here, I replied. We stood facing each other in the empty lobby. 6 years of marriage balanced precariously between us. Who booked the room? I asked. No one. Marina, the messages weren't about cheating, she said quickly. They were about you. The air seemed to thin. About me? I repeated. Yes. In what way? She hesitated, glancing toward the entrance, as if checking whether someone was watching. I found out something 3 weeks ago, she said carefully. Something I didn't know how to tell you. My heart began pounding again, but this time for a different reason. What did you find out? Her eyes filled with something dangerously close to tears. That someone from your past is back in the city, she said, and they've been asking about you. The ground beneath me shifted once more. My past? I asked slowly. She nodded, and I thought it was better if I handled it first. Handled what? She swallowed. The truth. And suddenly the idea of betrayal felt smaller than something else entirely. Something heavier, more complicated, and possibly far more dangerous than an affair. Because whatever this was, it wasn't simple, and Marina hadn't been meeting someone in room 507 for romance. She'd been preparing for something involving me, and I still had no idea what that was. For several seconds, I simply looked at her, trying to reconcile the woman standing in front of me with the version of events I had constructed in my head during that drive. The anger that had been burning in my chest was still there, but now it was tangled with confusion, and underneath both of those emotions was something quieter and far more unsettling. Uncertainty. What truth? I asked, my voice lower now, less accusatory, but far more serious. Marina glanced toward the receptionist, then gently touched my arm. Not here. We stepped outside into the cold night air, the city unusually quiet around us. The parking lot lights cast long shadows across the pavement, and for a moment neither of us spoke. She wrapped her arms around herself, not dramatically, but as if bracing against something more than just the temperature. You said someone from my past is back, I finally said. Who? She hesitated in a way that told me she had rehearsed this moment in her head many times, but still hadn't found a version that felt safe. Olena, she said. The name hit me harder than I expected. Olena. I hadn't heard that name spoken out loud in nearly 7 years. Before Marina, before marriage, before the life we built together, there had been Olena. Intense, passionate, unpredictable Olena. The relationship had burned bright and fast, full of dramatic highs and devastating lows. When it ended explosively. Accusations, betrayals, words you can't take back. And then she disappeared from my life completely. What about her? I asked carefully. Marina studied my face, searching for something. Guilt, perhaps, or longing. She came to my office 3 weeks ago, Marina said. She asked for me specifically. My stomach tightened. She knows who you are? She's known for a while. That didn't make sense. How? Marina exhaled slowly. Because she's been watching. The word sent a chill through me. Watching what? Us. I felt the first real flicker of fear then. She told me she had things she needed to clarify about you, Marina continued. She said you left her without answers, that you ruined her life and walked away. That's not true, I said immediately, the old frustration rising up like it had never fully left. She cheated on me. I found out. I confronted her. She denied it for weeks before finally admitting it. And when she did, she blamed me for not giving her enough attention. I know, Marina said quietly. That's what you told me when we first started dating. I frowned slightly. When we first started dating? She contacted me back then too, Marina admitted. The world seemed to tilt slightly. What? I never told you because I didn't want to create drama that wasn't necessary, she said quickly. She sent me a message on social media warning me about you. She said you were manipulative, that you made her feel crazy, that you isolated her. I stared at my wife, feeling something unfamiliar creeping into the space between us. And you didn't think I deserved to know that? I asked. At the time, I thought she was just a bitter ex, Marina said. You were honest with me about your past. I believed you. But now you're not sure, I said. Her silence answered before she did. I was sure, she corrected softly, until she showed me something. My heartbeat quickened. What did she show you? Marina reached into her coat pocket and pulled out her phone. She hesitated for a fraction of a second before unlocking it and scrolling through something. Then she turned the screen toward me. It was a photo, a screenshot of a conversation, my name at the top. But the messages were things I didn't remember writing. Angry words, cold words, threatening undertones. If you leave, you'll regret it. No one else will ever put up with you. You'll come crawling back. I stared at the screen, feeling as if I were looking at someone else's life. I never sent those, I said immediately. She has timestamps, Marina replied quietly. Voice recordings too. That's impossible. Is it? She asked, not accusingly, but with a tremor of doubt that cut deeper than anger would have. I felt my pulse in my temples. When did she show you this? I asked. 3 weeks ago, Marina repeated. She said she didn't want to ruin our marriage, but she felt I deserved to know who I was really with. And you believed her. I didn't know what to believe, Marina said honestly. The messages looked real. The number was yours. I shook my head slowly. I never threatened her, I said. We fought, yes. We both said things we shouldn't have. But I never. My voice trailed off as a memory surfaced, fragmented and blurry. There had been a night near the end, a fight, alcohol, raised voices. I had left her apartment furious, barely remembering how I got home. Could I have sent something? No, I would remember threatening someone. Wouldn't I? Marina watched the conflict on my face carefully. That's why I booked the hotel room, she said. I blinked. What does that have to do with any of this? She said she had more proof, Marina explained. She wouldn't send it digitally. She insisted on meeting in person. In room 507. Yes. And you went alone? I didn't want to involve you until I knew whether it was real, she said. If she was lying, I could shut it down quietly. If she wasn't, I needed time to think. You disabled your location, I said slowly, because I didn't want her knowing exactly where you were. She's unstable, Daniel. The way she talks about you isn't normal. A cold realization settled in my stomach. You think she's dangerous. I think she's obsessed, Marina replied. I ran a hand through my hair trying to steady my thoughts. So there's no one in 507 waiting romantically, I said. No, Marina replied firmly. There's a woman upstairs who believes you destroyed her life, and she's convinced I'm naive. And the message, he doesn't suspect anything? Marina's jaw tightened. She made me send that. The words felt like ice. She was watching your social media activity, Marina continued. She wanted to be sure you weren't following me or tracking anything. She said if you showed up unexpectedly, she'd assume I warned you. And you agreed to play along? I agreed because I needed to see what she actually had, Marina said. Daniel, she has documents, printed conversations, audio clips. My chest tightened again. Have you listened to them? I asked. Yes. And, Marina looked at me, and for the first time since this began, I saw something raw and unfiltered in her eyes. They sound like you. The words landed heavily between us. Not accusation, not certainty, just doubt. And in that moment, standing under the harsh white parking lot lights with my wife questioning a version of me I didn't recognize, I realized that whatever Olena was doing, it wasn't random. It was deliberate, calculated, and it was working. Because the most dangerous thing in a marriage isn't anger. It's doubt. And doubt had just stepped quietly into ours. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't explosive or dramatic. It was heavy, like something settling between us that neither of us had invited. They sound like me? I repeated finally. Marina nodded slowly. The voice recordings. They sound like you, Daniel. The tone, the pacing, even the way you pause before certain words. A strange coldness spread through my chest. I never recorded conversations with her, I said carefully, and I never threatened her. I know what you're saying, Marina replied, but I also know what I heard. The worst part wasn't her doubt. It was that a small, almost microscopic part of me began doubting myself. Memory is fragile, especially when it's tied to anger and hurt. There was one night, I admitted slowly. Near the end, we were both drinking. We fought for hours. I left furious. I barely remember the drive home. Marina's eyes searched mine. Did you call her after? I don't think so. You don't think so, she repeated quietly. I exhaled sharply. Marina, if I had threatened someone like that, I would remember. Would you? She asked gently, not as an attack, but as an honest question. That was the problem. I couldn't answer with absolute certainty. The mind protects itself. It edits. It blurs. It rewrites. But threats, manipulation, psychological pressure, that didn't feel like me. Why now? I asked suddenly. Why would she come back after all these years? Marina hesitated. She said she recently found out something. What? She claims she was pregnant when you left her. The world went silent. What? I said, the word barely forming. She said she found out 2 weeks after you ended things. And when she tried to reach you, you had blocked her everywhere. My breathing slowed unnaturally, like my body was trying to conserve oxygen. That's not possible, I said. She says she lost the baby. The air felt thinner. She says the stress caused it. The accusation wasn't shouted. It wasn't theatrical. It was quiet, controlled, and that made it far more disturbing. I never knew, I said, my voice almost detached from me. She never told me. She said she tried. I changed my number because she kept calling from different accounts, I said. After I caught her cheating, she would alternate between apologizing and blaming me. It was toxic. I had to cut contact. I understand that, Marina said softly. But from her perspective, she says you disappeared when she needed you. I pressed my hands against my temples, trying to piece together a timeline that suddenly felt incomplete. She has medical records, Marina added carefully, ultrasound paperwork, appointment confirmations. People can fake documents. Yes, Marina agreed. They can. The fact that she didn't immediately dismiss it as fake made something twist inside me. Do you believe her? I asked. Marina didn't answer right away. I don't know what to believe, she said honestly. That's the problem. A car drove past the entrance, headlights briefly washing over us before fading away. She wants something, I said finally. Yes. What? Marina swallowed. She wants you to admit what you did. What I did, I repeated. She wants a written apology. She says she wants closure. That's not closure, I said flatly. That's validation. Marina didn't argue. She also said, Marina continued carefully, that if you refuse, she's prepared to send everything to my company's board. She knows you occasionally attend corporate events with me. She said she'll frame it as a pattern of abusive behavior. The pieces clicked together. This wasn't about grief. It wasn't about healing. It was leverage. She's blackmailing us, I said. She says she's protecting other women. I let out a bitter breath. She cheated on me. I left. Now she's rewriting history. But the recordings, Marina started. I want to hear them, I interrupted. Marina nodded slowly. She's upstairs, she said. Waiting. The word waiting felt ominous now. Let's go, I said. Marina grabbed my wrist. Daniel, if you go up there angry, she wins. She wants you emotional. I forced myself to breathe slowly. You should have told me 3 weeks ago, I said quietly. I know, she whispered. I was afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid that if even a small part of it was true, I didn't know who I married. The honesty in her voice hurt more than accusation would have. I would never hurt someone like that, I said. I need to be sure, she replied. Those words didn't shatter us, but they cracked something. We walked back into the hotel together this time, no longer separated by suspicion, but united by something darker, uncertainty and threat. The elevator ride to the 5th floor felt longer than the drive there. Neither of us spoke. When the doors opened, the hallway stretched out ahead of us, quiet and carpeted, lit by soft yellow lights that made everything feel deceptively calm. Room 507 stood halfway down. Marina stopped walking. She doesn't know you're here, she whispered. She thinks I came alone. Good, I said. Marina knocked. Once. Twice. A few seconds later, the door opened. Elena looked almost exactly the same. Older, yes. Slightly sharper around the eyes. But the same intense gaze. The same controlled expression. Her eyes moved from Marina to me, and she smiled. Not surprised, not confused. Satisfied. I wondered how long it would take, she said calmly. My stomach tightened. You didn't tell him? She asked Marina, feigning innocence. We're here to listen, Marina said firmly. Elena leaned against the doorframe, studying me like I was a case file. You look good, Daniel, she said lightly. Guilt suits you. I don't feel guilty, I replied. Her smile widened slightly. Not yet. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. This wasn't about closure. This wasn't about truth. This was a game, and she believed she was holding the winning cards. Olena stepped aside without another word, silently inviting us in as if she had expected this exact outcome all along. The room behind her was neat, almost sterile in its order. A small round table stood near the window, and on it lay a carefully arranged stack of papers, a tablet, and what looked like a portable recorder. It didn't feel like a meeting born from emotion. It felt prepared, calculated. She closed the door behind us with deliberate calm and walked to the table, her movements unhurried. Marina remained slightly behind me, close enough that I could feel the tension radiating from her. I'm glad you came together, Olena said, her voice smooth and almost pleasant. Secrets destroy marriages much faster than truth. You don't get to talk about destroying marriages, I said evenly. She tilted her head slightly, studying me as though measuring my stability. There it is, she murmured. That tone, controlled, measured. You were always very good at sounding reasonable. I am reasonable, I replied. Her lips curved faintly. We'll see. She picked up the tablet and tapped the screen. A voice filled the room. My voice, or something disturbingly close to it. If you walk away from me like this, you'll regret it. You think someone else will tolerate your instability? You'll come back. They always do. The air in my lungs froze. Marina's body stiffened behind me. I listened carefully, not emotionally, not defensively, but analytically. The tone was familiar, the cadence too. But there was something off. It was subtle. So subtle most people wouldn't notice. The rhythm between sentences, a fraction of a second too clean, the breath too consistent. That's edited, I said calmly. Olena didn't blink. It's a full recording. No, I replied, shaking my head slowly. It's spliced. Marina looked at me sharply. How can you tell? She asked. Because I never speak in complete emotional statements like that without interrupting myself, I said. When I'm angry, I overlap words. I cut myself off. I change direction mid-sentence. Olena's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. You're very confident, she said. I know how I argue, I replied. She pressed another button, another clip. You're too sensitive. You make problems out of nothing. Maybe if you were stronger, we wouldn't fight like this. That one hit closer. I had said something like that before, years ago, but hearing it isolated, removed from context, sharpened into accusation, it sounded monstrous. Marina inhaled quietly. That sentence, I said slowly, was during a conversation about her jealousy. She accused me of flirting with a co-worker because I stayed late at work. I told her she was making problems out of nothing. Olena laughed softly. Convenient memory. No, I replied, looking directly at her. Context. She crossed her arms. You gaslighted me for months, she said flatly. You made me doubt my sanity. You made me feel small. The accusation landed differently this time. Not theatrical, not manipulative, personal. Marina stepped forward slightly. Why now? She asked quietly. Why bring this to us after all these years? Olena's jaw tightened for the first time. Because he moved on, she said simply. Because he got to build a stable life, while I was left rebuilding mine alone. There it is, I said softly. Her eyes snapped to mine. It's not about justice, I continued. It's about resentment. Her composure cracked for half a second. You don't get to define my motives, she snapped. You don't get to rewrite history, I replied. The room's temperature seemed to shift. Marina picked up one of the printed documents on the table. These screenshots, she said carefully. Why are the metadata timestamps missing? Olena hesitated. Just barely. They were exported. No, Marina replied, her voice steady now, professional. Exported message logs retain metadata unless manually removed. Olena's eyes narrowed slightly. You've been researching, she observed. Yes, Marina said. Quietly. A silence followed, one that felt like momentum shifting. I stepped closer to the table. You wanted me to react emotionally, I said, to deny everything aggressively, to lose control so you could point and say, see, that's him. Olena didn't answer. You expected me to panic when you mentioned pregnancy, I continued. Marina looked at me, searching my face. Did you know? She asked softly. No, I said, without hesitation now. And if it were true, I would have wanted to know. Olena's gaze wavered for the first time. You blocked me, she said quietly. Yes, I replied, because you alternated between telling me you loved me and telling me I ruined your life. That wasn't healthy for either of us. Her breathing grew less steady. For the first time, the controlled strategist faded slightly, revealing something more fragile underneath. You left, she whispered. Yes, I said, because you cheated. Her eyes filled, not with calculated tears, but with something unresolved. I didn't cheat, she said weakly. You admitted it, I replied. Silence. Marina slowly set the papers back down. Olena, she said gently, even if there were hurt feelings, even if mistakes were made, trying to dismantle someone's marriage years later isn't healing. Olena looked at her sharply. You think you're safe? She asked. Marina didn't flinch. I think if there were real evidence, you would have already gone public. Another long silence. The power dynamic had shifted. Olena's shoulders lost some of their rigidity. I just wanted him to feel something, she admitted quietly. I did feel something, I said. Back then, anger, betrayal, confusion. But I also let it go. You got closure, she said bitterly. No, I replied. I chose peace. That hit harder than any accusation. For a long moment, no one moved. Finally, Olena sat down in the chair by the table, her posture no longer theatrical, no longer sharp. The documents that had seemed threatening minutes ago now looked like props. I thought if I proved you were cruel, she said faintly, it would mean I wasn't weak. The confession changed the atmosphere entirely. This wasn't blackmail anymore. It was unresolved pain disguised as revenge. Marina glanced at me, and in that look something shifted again. The doubt hadn't vanished completely, but it had weakened, because truth, when steady, doesn't need to shout. And for the first time that night, I wasn't defending myself. I was simply standing in it, calm, present, unbroken. And Olena, for the first time, looked unsure of what to do next. Elena sat quietly, her shoulders slightly lowered now, but there was still a dangerous glint in her eyes. She no longer looked fully in control, yet something in me sensed this wasn't over. It was unraveling too easily. Marina stood beside me, tense but no longer uncertain. She wasn't looking at Elena like a threat to our marriage anymore. She was looking at her like someone trying desperately to hold on to power that was slipping away. "If that's everything," Marina said softly, "then we have nothing more to discuss." Elena slowly lifted her gaze. "Do you really think that's everything?" There was a shift in her tone. Not anger, not bitterness. Something colder. She reached for her bag beside the chair and pulled out a small envelope. "I wasn't planning to show this tonight," she said, "but maybe it's time." My pulse slowed instead of quickened, a strange, instinctive calm before impact. "What is it?" I asked. Elena didn't answer immediately. She walked to the table and placed the envelope carefully in the center, as though setting down evidence in a courtroom. "Open it," she said. I hesitated for only a second before picking it up. Inside was a single photograph, and the moment I saw it, the air left my lungs. It was me, not years ago, not during the relationship with Elena. Recent, very recent. I was standing outside a cafe, leaning slightly toward a woman I didn't immediately recognize. The angle made it look intimate, too intimate. My hand was near her waist. Marina stepped closer. "Who is that?" she asked quietly. I stared at the image, my mind racing. "I don't know," I said automatically. Elena smiled faintly. "Look closer." I did. The background, the storefront reflection, the date printed in the lower corner. 3 weeks ago. The same week Elena had contacted Marina. "That's impossible," I said. "Is it?" Elena replied. "I was at work that afternoon." "Were you?" she asked smoothly. Marina turned to me. "Daniel." "I swear," I said, feeling something unfamiliar creeping into my voice. Doubt. "I don't even remember this." Elena crossed her arms. "That's becoming a pattern." I forced myself to analyze the image carefully. The jacket I was wearing, yes, that was mine. The watch, mine. The cafe, it looked on the 1-2 blocks from my office. But the woman, I leaned closer, and then something clicked. "That's my colleague," I said. "Anastasia. She transferred from another branch last month." Elena raised an eyebrow. "Convenient." "It's not convenient. It's factual," I replied. Marina's voice was steady but tight. "Why does it look like you're holding her?" "I'm not holding her," I said quickly. "It's perspective." Elena walked toward us slowly. "There are more," she said. She pulled out her phone and began swiping. Another photo. This time we were sitting at a table, leaning toward each other, laughing. Another. We were walking side by side. Another. She touched my arm, each image carefully framed, cropped, suggestive. Marina's breathing changed beside me. "I've been documenting," Elena said calmly. "Patterns. This is surveillance," I said sharply. "This is proof." "It's proof of nothing," I replied. "I work with her." "At dinner?" Elena asked. I froze. Dinner. There was one evening, a team meeting that ran late, a group dinner afterward, but the angle of the photo made it look like just the two of us. "You didn't tell me about a dinner," Marina said quietly. "It was work," I said. "A team thing." "You told me you stayed late for reports." "I did stay late for reports. Then the team went out." "And you didn't think that was worth mentioning?" The ground beneath me shifted slightly. It hadn't seemed important. Now it felt critical. Elena watched us with unsettling calm. "I didn't fabricate these," she said softly. "I just observed." You're stalking me, I said. I'm revealing you. Marina stepped back slightly. Daniel, she said carefully, is there anything else you didn't mention? No, I said immediately, too immediately, because in that second, I remembered something small, insignificant at the time. Anastasia confiding in me about problems with her fiancé, me telling her she deserved better, me placing a reassuring hand on her back. In isolation, harmless. In accumulation, questionable. You see, Elena whispered, you don't even realize how you do it. Do what? I snapped. You create emotional dependency. You step in as the calm savior. You position yourself as a stable one. That's not manipulation, I said. It's subtle, she replied. Marina's silence became louder than any accusation. The room felt tighter. I never cheated on you, I said to Marina, my voice steady but strained. Not with Elena, not now, not ever. But did you blur lines? She asked.